Hi, this is Justice Harper with J Harper Graphic Design, and I'm going to be showing you guys how to make your first logo. So we're going to be using some of the concepts that we used in our last video, Adobe Illustrator for absolute beginners. And basically we're just going to be making shapes with other shapes. That's basically all we're doing. So the new thing that we're going to learn today is the shape building tool. All right, so let's get started. So I'm going to hide this layer right here, and we're going to go ahead and get started with our basic shapes. So as I'm sure you probably assume, we're going to be using a lot of circles. So we're going to start with our first circle. All right, it's probably going to be like our biggest one, right? I'm going to make sure that we have our stroke filled. And I'm going to keep it kind of small because we want to make sure that all the lines are close as possible together, and we don't want like the fill of the stroke to kind of get in the way. And you'll see what I mean later when we change this to outline mode. So I think 0.5 is good enough. So I'm going to zoom in on this circle right here, and we're going to make another one. So you can hit Command C to copy it, and then Command V to make another. And we're going to shrink this on down, not too small. We want it to be a pretty decent size because we want that like inner outside of that circle to be kind of thick. I think it needs to be a little bit smaller. All right, I think that's perfect. So just in case I'm not entirely sure that it's centered perfectly, we're going to use the Align tool. The Align tool sort of like centers everything in the way that it needs to be, or aligns it in a way that you want it to be. So we're going to be using the horizontal Align Center and the vertical Align Center. Now it looks like I had everything already perfect, so there was no changes. So we're going to continue making more circles. Now I want my next one to be a little bit bigger than this. So we're going to hit Command C, Command V instead of making a new circle, because we're going to make sure that we're working fast and efficiently here. So a little bit bigger, smaller than our original, but bigger than our first. I think that might be big enough. And we want to make sure that it's aligned at the top right here, and that it's in the middle right here. So it's aligned horizontally, but it's not aligned vertically, if that makes sense. And a lot of times we can sort of make sure of that by hitting Shift as we're moving it, because it'll go ahead and snap it right to the center. So another way to copy and paste is by hitting the Alt button on your computer. So we're going to hit Alt and we're going to hit Shift, and that's going to make sure that it's aligned, and it's going to make a copy of our selection. So now we have two. Now, as you probably guessed, we're going to keep making more of these. All right, so we got one more. I don't know if it's aligned all the way, and it's not. Now, the best way to make sure that it's perfectly aligned is by hitting Command Y and switching to outline mode. Outline mode is basically showing your design in its most rawest form. So it's not going to have a fill. It's only going to have these really thin outlines to ensure that you're hitting all those lines that you want to hit. You can notice that these right here are touching, these right here are touching, but this one right here, there's a little bit of space in between that we want to get rid of. So this ensures that we're as close as possible. So I'm going to hit Shift, and then there we go. Now it's aligned. Again, we hit Shift because it automatically helps it snap to where it needs to be. And then we're going to make one more. Again, hitting Alt, and then hitting Shift to snap it. Up. I did it again. And then again, you just hit Shift and you move it where it needs to be. There we go. All right, so now we have this really funky design that doesn't look anything like what we're going to end up with. But that's why we're going to use the shape builder tool, and we're going to take all these little sections here and we're going to morph them into what's eventually going to be our figure 8. So now that we have this really cool pattern right here, we're going to take this and copy it. And so I select the entire shape and we're going to hit Alt. So now we have two of them. So to ensure that nothing kind of gets moved or shifted around, what I like to do is I like to go ahead and group our images. So I'm going to take one of our circles and one of our circle design shapes, and I'm going to hit Command G, and that groups it together so that way I don't accidentally move one of these circles out of place. Like on our second one, this one isn't grouped yet, so I could easily mistakenly move my mouse and then it gets shifted all the way over there. So I can just hit Command Z and fix that. But to ensure that that doesn't happen, again, we're going to select this whole shape and hit Command G. That way, if I click on one of these shapes, it moves the whole thing around as opposed to one that's going to mess up our entire design and make us have to align everything perfectly again. So what I want to do with this shape is I want to align the outside of this circle to our second inner circle. This circle right here, we want to align that to this. So we're going to take this shape, we're going to hit shift so we make sure it stays right there in the middle. So we're going to move it right over there. Now, in case I'm not sure that they're entirely even, I'm going to hit our vertical mode. Now, they're not quite touching like I want them to, so again, we're going to go to our outline mode. We're going to zoom in, and we're going to take this and move it right where we need it to be. See, now they're overlapping, so we're going to zoom in just a little bit more. There we go. I think that might be perfect. Okay. All right. And then I'm just going to make sure that that's aligned one more time. All right, it is. And now we have this really crazy shape, right? We're going to go back to our normal view section. We're going to go back to our normal view mode. And now we're going to start combining these shapes together. And that's where I'm going to show you guys the shape building tool. So this right here helps us merge these things together. So we want to make sure that it's selected. Make sure that both of them are selected. And we're going to merge our first couple of shapes. Now basically how you use it is you press down and you basically kind of just start gathering these shapes up. So we want to make that middle circle and just combine all of that together. I'm going to do the same with the other side. Combine all of that together. All right, cool. So now we have our first shapes that we've already built. So now we want to kind of create that half figure eight that we had going on in our other one. And this kind of shows us that this wasn't aligned perfectly. That should be two different shapes. It shouldn't be one shape. So that means we probably need to go back in and edit this. So I'm going to undo what we did. And I'm going to, go back to my selection arrow. And we're going to fix that. Now we're going to go to Command Y. And they must not be quite as close as we thought that they were. Yep, just a little tiny space will mess that right on up. And this really, like, real life teaches you guys how to use the outline tool and try to make sure why. It kind of teaches you why it's so important that all your shapes are lined up and everything is where it needs to be. Because you don't want to find out later in your design when you've gotten so far and it's almost impossible to fix it, that something's wrong. Always make sure that you fix things early and that you find out as soon as possible. So I'm going to zoom in really close. Oh, I might have to ungroup it. There we go. And that might mean that it might be like that on the other side as well, so it's worth checking. Nope, that one appears to be fine. All right, so now we're going to start building our shape. So we're going to exit outline mode and go back to looking at our basic shape. So going back to our shape building tool, we're going to make sure that our shape is selected. And we're going to go ahead and start building this shape. This sort of morphs all those circles together and makes it one circle, like kind of how you could see in the other, in our original logo. All right, so now we have our first two circles. So now we want to kind of create that half figure 8 that we had. All right, so starting here. And what I like to do is periodically let go just in case I need to undo something, because it's a little harder to undo it when you're in the middle of selecting that shape. All right, make sure we get all those little pieces. Don't leave anything out. Now notice we want to make sure we get this piece in here as well, and all those little pieces there. You don't want to leave anything deselected. It gets a little bit more tedious as we go in there, but it's super easy to grab. All right, so I think we have our whole little figure 8 right there. So now we're going to take these shapes and then morph these together too. Oh, see? We made a mistake. All you have to do is hit Command Z and it undoes that, and you can just start right back over. There we go. There we go. Almost, actually, I think I missed out a little piece. Let's zoom in. It's always good to zoom in on your design so you can make sure that you catch any small details that you may have left out or forgot about. All right, so we basically have the basis of our figure 8 design. So now that they're selected, we can go ahead and start adding color. So what I did was I actually pulled the colors from our original logo from my logo here, because I like the color palette. So that's what we're going to do here as well. And you can always change the colors. You don't have to copy off the same thing that I've done. You can use your own colors. You could make this more flat, but we're going to try to make this a little dimensional, as you can see what I did here. So we're going to show you, I'm going to show you how to use the effects at the top bracket of Adobe Illustrator. And we're gonna, all right, so now it's already our first color right there. And if you don't have a color palette to select from, you can always go and do it manually. Change the color, now it's completely pink. If I want it to be a gradient, I can hit that gradient button and I can go change this color to any color that I want it to be. Yellow and pink, or pink or yellow and green. You have a lot of freedom. The colors that I'm choosing is just coming directly from my logo from below, but you can do whatever it is that you want. All right, and then for these shapes here, I'm gonna hit Shift and Shift for here. Oh, I moved it a little bit when I did that. All right, so now we have both of those selected, and I'm gonna make that this bottom blue right here, because I think that that bottom blue is really pretty. Now I can see that I still have a few outlines left in here, and we can actually just go in there and select those little pieces and just delete those. Something that kind of make this quicker is you can actually select your main pieces. So click, hit shift, and then what I do is I go to Object, Lock, Lock Selection. That way you can't do anything with it. If I click on it, it doesn't move, it doesn't do anything. But what it will do is all those parts I didn't hit select on, I can hit delete, and now they're gone. All right, so we're gonna unlock this selection, unlock. And now it basically looks like what our end shape is, but it's a little bit more flat, and that's where it's going to get a little bit more interesting. We're going to take these two shapes right here. Again, we're going to hit shift to select them both without selecting our middle shape. And we're going to go to effects, stylize, inner glow. Now mine is already set to the color that I used for this, but yours may go ahead and it's probably going to be on white and it's going to be set to screen. We don't want that. First, I want to set it to a dark blue. I usually try to avoid using black because black is a little bit too harsh. So we're going to go to a blue that's similar to the blue that's inside of here. And we're going to kind of go to a darker version that's almost black, but not quite. And you'll notice because it's set to screen, it's kind of like passing through it. So you can't see it. So I set it to normal. So that way you can actually see the effect that's inside of it. Make sure that it's set on preview, because if it's not set on preview, you won't be able to see the changes that you've made to your design. So the opacity is set to about 65. You can change it either so it can be more opaque, and you'll see that makes it really, really dark if it's set to 100%, or you can set it a little lower so that way it's a little bit more soft. But I think that 65 is pretty good. And we're going to hit OK. All right, and that's basically our whole logo design. So I'm going to make sure that this is all selected. I'm going to hit group so that way we can't separate the two. And we've basically just made our whole logo. That was really super easy. It only took us about maybe 15 minutes. And now you can go on and create shapes the easy way with our shape building tool with just simple circles. That's it, you guys. If you like this tutorial, please like and subscribe for more things like this. And tell me what you think that this logo could be used for in the comments below. Thank you guys. Bye.